Hello there. Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 4 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here today to talk to you about the concept of accountability. Just came from doing a leadership retreat in the Silicon Valley, and leaders seem to be really focused on this concept of accountability. And their complaint, their concern is you can't hold people accountable anymore. People won't hold themselves accountable. Now, when I talk to employees, they don't see holding themselves accountable as something that really benefits them. They basically see it as taking the blame for either someone else's problem or some problem in the system. So you got these 2 entities that are trying to accomplish some particular goal, make some product, make some business work. The leaders are trying to hold the employees accountable. The employees are trying to avoid being held accountable because they see it as blame, and that's the problem. So whenever I see a problem, I like to look at it from a very different perspective. For me, just like responsibility is the ability to respond, responsibility, I believe accountability is the ability to be counted upon or trusted. Because really that's what leaders want. They really want to be able to trust their employees to kind of do the right thing and learn from their mistakes and do what they say they're going to do. Employees also want to be able to be counted upon. They want it to be seen as trustworthy. So now you have 2 people trying to accomplish the same thing, and now they're coming from the same perspective. For those of you who follow my Life from the Top of the Mind philosophy, you know this perspective actually comes from a very specific part of the brain, this upper 80% of the brain. Because when leaders are trying to hold people accountable and it doesn't work, leaders get frustrated, they get upset, they get confused. That throws them into that lower 20% of the brain. When people find themselves being held accountable, they get resistant, they get frustrated, they get upset. It throws them into that lower 20% of the brain. So rather than having both of these groups kind of battling it out from the brainstem, I suggest we both shift up to the upper 80% of the brain, that clear, confident, creative, accountable part of the brain, and begin to look at the concept from what we can learn from mistakes. Because that's really when it generally comes into play. Someone's made a mistake and someone says, okay, who's responsible? Who needs to be held accountable for this? And everybody starts to scatter because it's about blame. But when we're looking at the future and we say, okay, knowing what we know now, how could we do that differently in the future? See, I think leaders really understand on some level that the people who probably have the most direct knowledge of what needs to be fixed are the people on the front line, the people who are doing the work, the ones that are in the trenches. So when we ask that question, okay guys, knowing what you know now, how can we do this differently in the future? Leaders can bring out that ability to be counted upon and that problem-solving ability in the people who may be in the best position to suggest a solution. By the same token, if we're an employee in an organization and we want to be counted upon, then what we can do is begin to ask ourselves the question, okay, knowing what I know now, how would I do this differently in the future? If being trustworthy or worthy of trust is something I want, how can I do this in a way that I would teach to someone I love? See, that wouldn't have us looking for someone to blame. That would have us looking for the solution, but it would be in the future. That's the key. People don't mind being held accountable for something they agree upon. When they look into the future, they want to be counted upon. So the idea of looking toward the future, I think, is a really important component of this accountability concept. So if you're a leader, I would encourage you to rethink the whole accountability concept and think of that question, knowing what we know now, how could we do that differently in the future? What agreements can we make about this? And if you're an employee, knowing that you want to be seen as trustworthy, able to be counted upon, how can I do this differently in the future? I think it will make everyone so much more productive and happier in achieving that goal that everyone is trying to achieve. I hope you find these videos valuable, having a wonderful time bringing them to you. If you would like me to come and do a presentation to your organization about kind of redefining that concept of accountability so that everybody's on the same page, I'd love to do that. If you're watching this on my website, just hit the contact button. If you're not, if you're watching on YouTube, just go to billcrawfordphd.com or just Google Bill Crawford and I'll come up on the first page. Hit the contact button, let me know what you're interested in. Happy to talk with you about that. And of course, if you want me to work with you as a leader or as an employee so that you can shift to that upper 80% of the brain and go for responsibility, the ability to respond, and accountability, being the ability to be counted upon. If you want to bring that to your experience of life, go to the website, let me know, and again, I'd be happy to work with you around that. In the meantime, here's to you bringing more clarity, confidence, creativity to everything you do, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.